God damn it, you do look so cute. We're live, but you're so damn cute. God damn it. Hello, welcome to Sometimes Dungeons, Sometimes Dragons with myself, Ivy, and Ben does D&D. Also,
Hello.
our special guest, Sap, who is in the same frame as Ben today, who I love
Yeah,
very
we're
much.
in the same place.
Finally.
Finally. It's been
Finally.
10 months.
Jesus. Finally. But, today's going to be a very chill, easy kind of just chat, where we're just going to talk about new DMing and new to D&D and how that looks and what the challenges that you face are. It's going to be very laid back, I think, today. Extremely so. But
It always is with this show. We're always like,
you're
we
right.
always just are just like, what are we gonna do today? I don't know. Let's just show up and see what happens. It's great.
I like that. Are we Phineas and Ferb? I don't know. What do you want to do today?
Pretty much.
That or Pinky in the Brain? We're
Which one of
going
us
to
is
take
Phineas
over
and which
the
one of us is
world!
Fun?
Pinky in the Brain.
Which of us is Phineas and which of us is Ferb?
Well, you're Ferb because he's British.
Wow. Okay.
What?
I guess.
What? I'm not wrong.
Swapping those over.
Are you really going to sit there and tell me that I'm wrong?
I mean, I guess not. Um,
I mean, fine. If you
yeah.
want to be Phineas, you can be Phineas. That's fine.
I I'll
See, now
just
you don't know.
I just
Um,
oh,
okay, so, Ben, you, the baby DM,
hi.
hello. Tell me a little bit about being a baby DM and the challenges you have faced being a baby DM.
Um, being a DM, being a first time DM, what I found is I think what every DM goes through, which is like at first you're like, ah yes, I will over prepare for literally everything. I will prepare every situation, I will prepare notes for everything. If this happens or if that happens, and then you get to the point where you've prepared so much that you start playing and you have an answer for everything and it's great. And then after a while you realize how much work that really is. And it gets to that point where you can tell in the evolution of my notes if you looked at them for our game, because I run a home game that is my game that I first time DM, which Ivy is in, and Seb is also a player in as well. And yeah, if you looked at my notes for that, you can definitely tell where I started writing and where I got to the point where I was like, bullet points works for me. Um, yeah, like you kind of get to that point where like if you have like very specific things that you want to make notes of, obviously like you'll fill those out a lot more. But like aside from that, you kind of end up start like making up things kind of on the fly and kind of just going with it. Because especially with me, I think a lot of DMs have this as well. It's like a lot of the creative information and stuff that you have is kind of all up here, and like it's more of a formality getting it written down as actual notes. At least that's what I've found as I've kind of gone, and it's like, oh yes, I have this idea and this is something that I'll just remember, but I'll write it down just in case. um but yeah, I've definitely done that. I think I've been pretty lucky as a DM with the amazing group that I've had to start off with, because you guys have gone very easy on me. Um, I feel you guys have definitely gone really easy on me. I know some people would have absolutely, thrown us in the deep end. I think things only have derailed once. I think almost derailed almost once, and that was literally like the first session, when there was kind of I had like an encounter set up and I was like, aha, right, NPC that they need to talk to progress things. um and I don't know what happened, but I kind of introduced them, and then the two players who met this NPC were like, cool, sounds good, I'm gonna go now. And
I
it's
have
like,
no idea what you're talking about. I did
"Mm,
not do that.
yeah, excuse me, Ivy, how dare. Okay, Squishmallow is not happy. how dare?
Are you gonna have the Squishmallows judge me the entire stream? Is that what
Yes. This long boy, this long cat
this
boy,
is? Law.
he's judging me. He
Yeah.
long. He's so look at this long
Long and
boy.
full.
Long and full of judgment.
So, additionally, Sab, this is your first time being a player in a D&D game. What were some of your reservations going into D&D when you first started? What worried you?
So, first starting, I'm very much surrounded by a lot of people who know a lot about D&D. I went in completely blind. I had no clue. It was the sort of thing that a lot of people were interested in. I was interested in it. It was like, how do I go about this? What dice are what? What do I do? So I was fortunate that I had loads of people to help me out and talk me through it. And Ben has been very wonderful in answering my very dumb questions.
No, not dumb questions. There are no such thing as dumb questions in D&D.
I think that's a really important point, actually.
It's the sort of thing.
No dumb questions in D&D. It's okay to ask what dice do you use, or if you can do a counter spell, or if you can do a cantrip with a leveled spell, and when you can and when you can't. I think it's important because there's a lot of stuff.
But it's been really fun. It's the sort of thing that I'm finding my feet still. Because we've had 11 sessions, and we've been running for about
like
8-9 months, just purely because it went through a phase of not being able to play, and we had 3 birthdays line up in a dead row that we all took off. Like all our 3 birthdays. But no, it's been really good. It's something I've always been interested in, but I never knew a lot about. So it's very good to like find your feet, find people that you get on with, and I mean it helped that I started playing with friends, like definitely, and like listening in and watching you guys play quite a lot. It was it was very helpful.
Yeah, you definitely like. That's the thing. You think a lot of the questions you ask me are like, oh, they're really dumb questions, but they were actually like really good questions that you were asking me, like genuinely, like even if they seemed like dumb questions at the time.
Yeah.
That's the great thing that like every DM and like every player, to be honest, will tell you about new players. The thing that's so amazing about new players in D&D is they come out with such crazy creative things that you just like as a like player who's played for a while just doesn't think about, like yes, I will defeat this enemy by doing this thing because that makes sense, and I can use this spell and I can do that. And then a new player who doesn't know that there's like a specific spell where you can just do this thing, or there's something you can specifically do, will just turn around and be like, yeah, can I just do this, like is that possible? And you just think, yes, actually, never thought of that.
It was like when I was in wild shape form, and I then hit him down with a spider web, and then moved my moonbeam as a action.
I forgot about that. I was like, oh yeah, you can do that. That was you've definitely Sab is playing a wood elf druid. Circle the Moon druid. Which can be a little complex. Druids can be complex, but they're fun. They're fun. Ivy wouldn't know anything about moon druids, right, Ivy?
Druids? What? Don't know nothing about
what
them.
druid? Ivy druids never.
Ivy druids?
I'll have you know Ivy's a warlock main.
Gross! Don't put that on me. Gross. No.
Fine. I'll be the warlock main. All right. Geez.
Fine, do it because I don't want it.
But no, you've definitely like risen to the challenge, and like you've definitely like taken your time to like do the research as well. Like that's been the thing, is that like you've been unsure and you've had a lot of questions, but then you've gone and done your own research as well. Like you've got like that list of like animals that you can like turn into. Like you've gone and done your own research, because whenever you've been like, oh, I want to wild shape into this or wild shape into that, you, like whilst I sent you that list originally, being like, oh, here's like a good list of things for you to look at, you could have every time you need to wild shape, like you could just have asked me like, oh, what do you think is a good thing to turn into, like what would work for this situation, all of that. but you've got that list and you've already like pre-thought it ahead and like you know what you're going to turn into and like yeah. And then are you pulling up your character sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I was just thinking, I was like, have I got my spells up today? Have I written down that I'm definitely Circle of the Moon?
The D&D player always with the character sheet ready.
I literally, I've
Sab made
fully-
her own.
I know.
fully went through.
And it's
I don't know if
gorgeous.
So
it'll show up
beautiful.
on the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But
Always
Yeah.
ready.
So Sab drew this character
I
sheet
know,
herself.
it's
Literally took
absolutely
the design,
stunning.
drew a character herself. It is amazing. I love it so
It's
much.
gorgeous.
Got all of her information on there, and it's so cute, and it makes me so happy.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a character sheet ready. You never know when you have to roll initiative.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I should have done to you too. It's just actually this is a one shot roll initiative.
We've done that in Discord before. We've literally just made jokes and then been like, right, let's go. One shot right now.
Go right now. I'm gonna do that at some point soon, actually.
Dude,
Nobody
that
knows.
fight on Red Lobster. Were you there for that?
I was not there for that, but I saw the aftermath of.
Of the fight in the Red Lobster.
I
Yeah.
was there, but I wasn't in the chat. Like that was.
That was so good.
Um,
That was too funny.
you guys are actually gonna get to do that someplace soon, very soon.
Yeah. But how about you, Ivy? How was your first time being either a player or being a DM? Because you've certainly done a lot of both.
Yeah, forever DM up until pretty much last year when Kevin, Dice Cream Sandwich, asked us to do Beyond the Realms. You know, our one shot.
One shots, yeah, 100%.
No, my first time DMing was a group of 12 newbie guys. They were great. It was a lot of fun. I had them fight a troll at first level. And it was interesting because the choices, yeah, I threw a troll at them.
Nice.
It's fine because one of them had their character that was actually a knight. He had relations to the previous king, who had been beheaded and dethroned by the current king. So there was a lot of anger and unresolved stuff there. But he still wore the insignia. Like they were fine. They were allowed to exist. It was just like, okay, don't ever come for the throne. You're not in line anymore. So there was a lot of reservations there where he had a lot of harbored anger towards the current king, but still wore his insignia of the previous king. And one of the heads of the knights recognized him in town. So when they were sent off to go do this mission, they were all really nice to the knight and his squadron, but when they went out to fight the troll, he blew a horn and called for aid from the rest of the knights. And it was really funny because I told them afterwards, I was like, had you not been nice to those knights when you saw them, they wouldn't have come and helped you. You would have had to face it by yourself. But they came in halfway through the fight and helped finish it off. So it was interesting. It gave a lot of my baby players the chance to see that they had their... And the only reason I told them was to show them that, yes, your choices are going to have, you know, consequences, good or bad. So it was good. But, I don't know, my first time really playing as a character was Farrell in that one shot with Kevin. And here we are a year later, where Farrell has very much evolved and changed, and she's not the same character I started out with. Which I think is really funny because I was telling Ben one day that I actually really hated the first time I played Farrell. I hated how she played compared to what she is now, which I think just shows her character growth. But,
yeah, 100%. I mean, I never get to live down the first time I play Tarek, so, you know.
What's the name, Tim?
God damn it. Tim the Adventurer will come back one day with a vengeance. One day.
I think
I mean, the most.
I think what we should do is disguise. Oh,
Oh no. Oh, I see it.
Ben, goodbye.
Go away.
I feel like there's a lot of bots lately, but I think what we should do is if we ever get to go to a masquerade or something, that you just dress again as Tim the Adventurer and have him come back and make his comeback.
Yeah. Oh man, one day.
One day.
One day Tim the Adventurer will come back and it will be glorious.
Will be, but So, what is, as you've been DMing your very first campaign, what is an important thing that you've learned besides not to over prep? Same question goes to you, Sab, but also what is something you've learned, not since you've watched people play D&D, what's something you've learned as a player?
I mean, the main thing to remember with DMing, and it's taken me like time to like learn, is definitely once you've like picked up on it, it's like, oh, this is great, is remembering that you are always in control. Because that's the thing, is that like, whilst there are, stat blocks and, like the players can do whatever they want to do, at the end of the day, like there is no linear path. There is no, oh, if this happens, like it has to go down this way, like this thing has to happen. You can make enemies, change on the fly. You can make them behave in different ways. You can, if you realize, players don't seem to be doing too well with this fight. Oh, this guy's looking a lot more hurt than he actually was before. You can adjust things on the fly, and I think that's something definitely that took me a little bit of time to remember, is like that you can just adjust things whenever. Like you can make things easier, more difficult, change things like as you go. And kind of once you get that, like kind of once you kind of like realize that just makes things so much easier. Because it's very easy as a new DM when it's all very intimidating and there's lots of things going on and you've got all your notes. You're like, oh, I have to stick to this, like these notes that I've written, otherwise I'll just completely lose everything. And then, with like making encounters with like stat blocks and like all of that, you can just, make it up. You can just change things. It is remembering at the end of the day that it is your game. And that everything is like all the rules and all the stat blocks and everything are there literally just as that's a word to say, advisements. That's a word. And they're just there to, as suggestions and to help you out. Whereas at the end of the day, you can just make it whatever you want because it's your game. So yeah, I think that was definitely my first kind of big thing to learn, was kind of just getting over that kind of hurdle. And I think once you're past that, it makes things so much easier because there's a lot less pressure on yourself to make things go a certain way. There's a lot less, almost like expectation on yourself to be like, oh, I have to make sure I, get all the stats of this creature right, because otherwise, someone will be like, oh, I thought this creature had more health or could do this move or whatever, and it's like, oh no, I can't remember, I changed it and I forgot about that. Like, you just do what you gotta do.
So, Sab, what's something you've come to appreciate or learn having watched it and then having played a character? Or something you've come to really appreciate?
I've come to appreciate, I again, like, I'm very happy that we are very, like, as a campaign, very roleplay based. Like, out of the whole thing, that's always been something that's really appealed to me. And I think it's not even just, like, appreciating downtime, it's appreciating building that, like, sort of relationship, both as players and as characters with people. Like, I mean, in our campaign at the moment, the way that me and Rory, well, Sabine and Rory are working on stuff like that started off as a joke, and now we're like, oh, this is kind of a cool thing. Let's have a conversation about this and see where it goes. And it kind of like, even just interacting with NPCs, it's like a cool, taking time to RP and actually get invested in your character. Because like, I didn't think I'd become this invested in my character, and then I'm now like, oh my god, like there's all these backstory things. Like, I'm looking at more things, like I'm answering question sheets about my own character just for the sake of it. RP's fun.
Yeah.
And even watching it, like, I enjoy watching your guys' stream for the RP and all that. Like, I really do. And then I enjoy
watching us cry on stream.
3 weeks in a row.
Oh,
yeah.
God damn.
Like, that's the thing, is when you had Maddie pop up, I was like sat with her for stream, chatting away to her, and I was like getting so excited for it to happen, and then it happened and I fell asleep, but I had to go go back and watch the VOD, and I was really happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like getting invested in roleplay, we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, getting invested is honestly, it's one of those things where at first you're just like, oh, it's just an imaginary game with these imaginary people, and I can do this cool move, and I guess I can talk to people. That's like a small part of it, I guess. It's almost like the opposite of that video game thing where it's like, ah, yes, just skip the cutscene. I'm not that interested. I want to get to the combat stuff.
It's like, give me the cutscene.
Cool. Let it be just all the cutscene. It's great.
I think, because I've heard a lot of DMs struggle with players who don't want to be invested, or like they don't know how to come out of their shell and roleplay, and it's such a large part of D&D to actually interact, because getting to know your character. Sad if you don't get to roleplay very often and you just went into combat, you're like, I have no idea who this character is. If Farrell didn't get to roleplay, she wouldn't have evolved the way she has. It's a very important part of your character.
Yeah, no, it really is. Because then that leads then it leads to things that then affect them, like in combat, like combat roleplay, like
morality choices.
We
love those.
Or avoiding certain spells, or like even like, do I lethal damage or non-lethal damage? Like if you didn't have the RP of it, you'd be like, well, yeah, obviously I just want to kill it. Like, what do I care if it's dead? Like, what's the point? I don't see the problem here. Like, but when if you kind of have that investment with your character, it's like, oh, they don't kill people. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Farrell always has create and destroy while they're running, and it's always prepped. Has she used it? Absolutely not.
Nope.
Will she? Maybe. We'll see. But
who knows?
No, it does. It affects every aspect of your character, which is very fun to see how everything evolves, because it's. I think Tarek also, if we didn't have the roleplay, he would not be where he is currently.
No, he would be. Oh boy, he would be in a completely different timeline. Yep.
The darkest timeline of BTR.
No, literally the darkest timeline.
Of BTR, but no.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So Sab, when you were making a character, what were the things that you were looking for? Why pick Druid? When you first made your first character, why was it, I want to be this?
I play a lot of video games. I always play kind of like the backup, like support characters. It's kind of like, I don't like to play like super out there and super combat-y things. Like I'm kind of just there to vibe. And a lot of the spells appealed. A lot of the options. Like I went through and I was like, I could do that or cleric. Like those are the two that I like the look of. And I just kind of settled on druid, and I was like, okay, we'll go for a wood elf as well, because they look cool. I found some really cool concept art on Pinterest, and that's kind of where I went from. I went for something with the same vibe. So I really like the spells. I really like all the options it gives me, like all sorts. There's loads. And I'm learning more and more every day. Like the amount of times I start a session, I'm like, oh, I haven't prepared any like extra spells since we've leveled up. I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah.
Like there's lots that I'm really enjoying. And again, there's like, if I had to go redo her, there'd be a couple of things I'd change. Like I picked a quarterstaff and then realized I have I do no damage because I put my lowest stat into strength. And it was at 9, like I would have gone for like a bow or something like that, for the sake of being able to do damage at range, but also being able to hang in the back lines and like support.
But like, yeah, those are the kind of things that you learn. And like I've mentioned to you before, like when as a DM, you can bring those kind of things up to your DM, like you have. And I've said, cool, I'm gonna find you a fun dex-based weapon you can get your hands on at some point. Like you've mentioned, possibly getting a bow at some point, and I think that'd be very cool. So when we no spoilers, but at some point, something like that, an option to get something like that will come up.
Once again, we're back to the communication between a player and DM.
Right?
Amazing.
Communication. We haven't done a whole episode of Sometimes Dungeons, Sometimes Dragons about that.
Oh, us? Never.
What?
No. No, 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 no,
Never.
no. We don't do that here. So, Ben,
Mm.
DMing, how has it made you a better player? If it
How has
has.
DnD specifically made me a better player? I think kind of just like being able to appreciate going like what goes on behind the scenes as well. Like obviously when you're a player, it's just like, whoa, this is so like crazy, and I like have no idea like what's happening. But like being a DM, you spend like a lot of time like looking at stat blocks, like building how encounters can come. Like that's the thing that's been really fun about being a player is you get thrown into all these crazy wacky encounters, and you're like, oh, this is so amazing, this is so like creative and fun, and then getting to go and do that yourself has definitely given me more of an appreciation as a player of like seeing where the vision has come from, and like all the different things that have been put in to make it like a fun encounter, and like in the most recent episode of BTR, like the fun of having just like that side room where it literally could have just been, oh, it's just a room on this map, it's just a library, like it's just it's whatever. But instead, Kevin went through that mindset of like, ah, let's put something fun here, let's put a mimic in.
Oh, yeah. A
People always
mimic.
talk
How
about mimics,
fun.
but you never get to see them anymore. You don't see them that often in games at the moment. But he's just like, I'll just throw a mimic in there because why not? It's a giant bookshelf, and seeing that and kind of having that appreciation for just yeah, you definitely appreciate the little things and the like attention to details that other DMs put in when you're DMing yourself. Um,
I love how
yeah.
the only one who drank water was Ben.
Well, I mean, I actually have water today, so.
I have juice.
I have an energy drink.
You have coffee, Ivy.
I
Don't lie
have
to us.
coffee and juice. I can multitask.
I mean, I also have like juice as well, but I have lactose. But yeah, definitely being a DM, you definitely, when you get to be a player, you definitely appreciate the kind of the small details more, and kind of there's everything that goes into building maps and encounters and everything like that. So yeah, that's definitely what I would say. How about you, Ivy? How does it compare? What things do you appreciate more now?
Oh, now that I'm a player compared to a DM, and vice versa.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah, no, you have like I've gone from being player to DM, whereas you went from DM to player because you started as a DM. So
Um,
I guess in the opposite direction, really.
yeah, opposite, entirely. Hmm. Oh, it made me appreciate it because I had only had one character beforehand that I played in a one shot, which was a Wood Elf Ranger.
Mm.
So it made me appreciate casters a little bit more because now I normally play casters. I main druids and sorcerers. Um,
Mm.
it appreciated because I still ask questions. So it appreciated me. It gave me an appreciation for players who have their spells and they know what they're doing. Um, because I have to still reread certain spells and everything else. So it gave me an
Mm.
appreciation for players who know their character sheets by the back of their hand. Um, because I mix up my character sheets all the time with Ruby that I play on
Right.
Lark and Feral, who I play on Beyond the Realms. I thought I had
Yeah.
higher deception as Feral. Nope, it's Ruby's.
Mm.
And vice versa. So I think it gave me an appreciation for players who have their spells ready and they know what they want to do, especially
Yeah.
in a combat situation where they quickly are like, yep, I'm going to do this with this bonus action, and then I'm going to do this, and we're going to deal this much damage, and now I'm going to take my move, like, and can rapid fire what they're doing,
Mm.
which is impressive to me. Yeah, it's made me appreciate players who have their shit together, as well as just in general. I think being on so many streams as a player has made me really appreciate a good role play Very much so. I love watching the roleplay, either when I'm DMing with my players or whether I'm a player with my fellow players. I really appreciate a good roleplay, and I think I appreciate that more now.
Yeah, that's good answer. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you're a DM, like again, like you can kind of just you've had like probably like a week to prep, what person is gonna do and what spells they're gonna use and what it does and all of that. Whereas like as a player, it's like cool, I have to memorize, or like it almost feels like you have more to memorize. Like again, it goes back to that thing of when you first start out as a DM, you have like a million notes and you're trying to keep track of them all and literally just can't. So you get to the point where it's like, I'll bullet point it and then everything else is up here. Whereas with a player, it's like, cool, I have an entire sheet of things I need to remember what they all do. You have like all your different spells, and then like depending on what you're playing, like racial abilities, or like
Do I have dark vision?
Specific abilities and stuff like that, and trying to remember what they all do. I commonly forget the one that I have that would be super helpful. Like, this is probably the first time I'm even mentioning this to you, Ivy. As Tarek with the current pack that I have, Great Old One, I have a once per, it's either long or short rest, the ability to, I think it's either pass a failed check or re-roll a failed check, and I've never used
Benjamin!
it. I know, because I forget that I have it.
Do you know how many times those have come in handy?
Yep.
Oh my
Yep. And I just forget that I have it.
I'm gonna remind you of that. I am.
I'm never letting you put this down.
Yeah, but it's just remembering all of your different abilities, and just there are so
common one that we all hear is, do I have dark vision? Does everyone have dark vision?
Right.
That's a very common one.
It's fine. I can see far. Always.
I can see far. He's probably thinking about other girls. I can see far.
I can see far.
Oh my god.
It's my favorite thing. It's so good.
So, what expectations did you have for yourself going in becoming a DM that you realized you had set the bar too high, or realized that was not a good goal to set for yourself, if any? Because, there's the mercerisms where everybody wants to be that mercer. It sets a very high bar for themselves.
Being able to have, again, like with notes and stuff, again, being able to just prepare so unbelievably, like, large amount of notes and have them all written out and stick to them all and know them all, like, enough to not have to go and read them constantly and, like, that sort of thing. That was definitely something that was a goal I set for myself that was just so unbelievably like out of reach. Like, you do just have to check your notes, like you do, like when there's so many, especially at that point where I was relying pretty much solely on notes and being like, I've written this thing, so I like have to go with that instead of kind of just making it up as I go. Kind of just going with it and working it out from there. That was definitely something I set as a goal, kind of a little too high for myself. And then also knowing fully where things are going to go as well. Like a lot of, again, like, and like having a fully prepped, like, world and like story and everything. Like story, I've changed things in the story like 3 or 4 times, like whilst we've been playing. It's like I've had a new idea, or I've like had like, I could, do this thing differently or change that thing, or like just like create this whole place. Like the originally when you guys first started, the 2 bottom like continents that I had created on like the map I made for you guys, like the 2 bottom like states, I had nothing for either of them. I was just like, they exist. I don't have any story specific things down there, so they just exist, I guess. And if it comes up, it comes up. And then I had like ideas, and I built that whilst we were playing. But yeah, just I think having kind of expecting myself to have a fully planned out story, like start to finish almost, and then also having like a fully prepped world with like every town and not quite every NPC, but you know what I mean, like having so much of it prepared like ahead of time. I think was definitely a goal I set too high for myself.
I would say out
Um,
of the entirety of the world that the girls are in, like for the rectification, most of the talents are filled out, or at least I know one
hmm.
thing that's there. But there's a couple that have nothing, just in case they ask me something random of, "Hey, is there this?" And I'm like, "Yep, it's in this town over
Yep,
here,
it's
all the way far
in this
away."
place.
Oh, so Seb, how has your character changed and developed from when you first made her? Did she play the way that you expected her to? Is her personality what you expected when you created her?
Um, I very much made her as like a quiet and humble character to start, and just kind of like it's just kind of there. Um, and then I think a big thing that like changed how she was when we were in the cave spider fight.
Hmm.
Um, and I was just like, okay, like I don't know how I can help the situation. Maybe I'm just gonna wild shape and go straight on in there in the form of a cave spider. Like it's gonna be gross. Like as a character, it's gonna be real gross. I was like, okay, but like there's people up in web. There's all these abilities under what it is. Like I can sense anyone on a web and like their status. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and get up there and do that. And that was completely on the fly. Like I hadn't considered using wild shape until it got to that, and I was like, maybe this is probably the better idea. Like, and that kind of was very much like the first time I kind of just charged on in. And I think that's kind of like why I've been a lot more confident when it comes to combat as well. Like, I mean, the last combat session, I may have just peeked around the corner and thrown down the spell and then backed up, but
That
it
was
was very
kind of a
much
situational thing.
yeah, it was very much right. I'm just gonna try and throw something in there that's gonna do real good, and it's gonna like do a distraction so I can work on what I'm gonna do next.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Nice, very nice. I would say I like watching characters change from when they first created to what they might be now.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yeah, watching characters like change and adapt, and because like that's the thing with like you find that with literally like I would say probably like 7 or 8 times out of 10, like you start with a vision for a character and then they just completely change and become different just as you play them. And like with the players that you are with, in your party, they, make you adapt in certain ways and react to certain things differently, in a way that perhaps is different to the things they've experienced before. Or just like, yeah, as a player, you just find yourself reacting to them in different ways and just being like, I've never found myself in this situation before. I guess I'll act in this way, and then you kind of just find it, and it just even sometimes without realizing, you just completely change. I think you and I have definitely with the characters that we play in Beyond the Realms definitely had that, like, the way you played Farrell back in the first one shot, like you say, you like look back at that now and you're like, she's so different, and it's like, but like same with Tarek as well, like with the way he played and like the personality that he had, and his kind of attitude to everything has definitely changed and evolved. And like whilst a lot of that personality is still there, the kind of motivations for it and kind of the way he goes about it has definitely changed, and definitely his goals have changed a lot as well.
No, I would have never guessed.
Never. um yeah, but it's just characters always change and evolve, and aren't usually kind of, they start in one place and, well, just end somewhere else. It's very rare that they'll kind of, you'll have like a full idea when you start out and then it will just stay like that the whole time. You'll just kind of change and adapt on the fly, as you adapt to your
You
fellow party
you
members,
mean
the
like
world
people
around you.
do? Like people adapt and change. Your character is going to
Right?
adapt and change.
It's great.
Shocking.
Mm.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions. I don't know if there's anything that you two want to talk about.
I'm trying to
We're about
think.
at 45 minutes, so that's about what we thought
Yeah,
it was going to be.
first time D&D stuff. So, um, what was it like? Do you remember So here's a good one. What was the first time, this is for both of you, Ivy, you probably have a little bit more experience with this one. What was the first time, if you can remember, that you as a player did something that kind of gave you that kind of like really good feeling of like satisfaction that you not necessarily as a party, or it could be as a party, but as a player individually affected something or changed something in a way that kind of made you feel like really good, and like you'd made a really positive or negative impact, like made a big impact on the story, or your party, or just something like that. I've got your thinking faces on.
Oh, I can think of one, but
Yeah.
I want to see if Sal would like to go first.
I don't know.
I don't know if you have. Okay, I'll let you think while I answer them. One of my favorite moments in the entirety of Farrell's existence as a character.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of good moments. I love her
Hmm.
from the very first time that she was like nope 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 in the very first one shot to now. One of my favorites that I just adore is when she kicked open the doors when she heard the bard singing badly about her. It was that moment that solidified a lot of her behavior in my mind and how that was
Hmm.
going to play out. Um, so I guess kicking open the doors and screaming at her ex while he was on stage is one of my favorite things. It felt because I knew it was going to develop one way or another, and I liked the way it happened. I knew that could have a lot of negative effects, as in Pharaoh could get arrested. The guards could arrest her right there for swinging open the doors or screaming at the bard on stage. But I think that one was probably my favorites.
Hmm. You got one, Seth?
I think it would probably be when we went back to like my home village.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole situation around like me seeing my family again after everything that happened, and sort of having that time to talk with Maddie's character and kind of open up about it and be like, yo, I'm gonna trust you with this, like, so that we have that bond there and you can be someone I trust, like that. I think that's one of the big moments for me that like I came out feeling really happy about, like the way I went about everything. Because again, I'm trying to avoid conflict and arguments and big situations. That was sort of one where I was like, I'm happy with the way I reacted and I'm happy with the way it went.
Yeah, that was definitely a good one.
Same question to you, Ben. What's something that you've done in any of the stream games that you were on? Choices you've made that have negatively or positively affected the game that you stand by the choice or enjoy making?
There's one, and you probably know which one this is. There's so many, but the one that definitely I think has stuck out to me the most, and that's because it was very early on in just my D&D, career as a whole, was two very different ones, both involving the same character. So in the stream, definitely was when I almost went against the DM's will, almost as it were, with choosing not to commit a very evil act of leaving my party behind because I'd been secretly given a task by the DM to steal the item that we were, heisting for myself, and kind of, just deal with that. And, I obviously went to go follow through with that, but then as a player, I went, you know what? No, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to stay and I'm going to, do all of that. And that then led to everything that happened with, like, the interaction with Odin and the hammer and all of that, with, the whole becoming worthy thing, and like staying with the party, and like all the RP that kind of like sprung from that. That was very much a big moment because it was, this big thing that was going to happen. And then just in that split second moment, I went, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to turn this 180 and I'm going to do something completely different. That was definitely probably one of my favorite ones for me. Just seeing the way everyone reacted to that, and just like all the like positive energy that came from that, it really meant a lot to me as a player. And then I think the other one is going the other way with the same character before that, which is probably about, probably like 3 months or so before in game. When in the first time I actually played Tarek in a one shot with some friends, well before that, was when our DM kind of gave all of us the choice of like, okay, so here are your options. You can either fight this, demon lord and probably lose. You can leave and have your memories wiped, or you can, join his, army of devils. And then taking that moment with, with how my character was, acting at the time and his kind of motivations at the time, and kind of going out and creating that rift with the other party members in the fact that I went, I'll join you and screw the rest of them. And that was definitely a big thing for me, of just like, oh, that's a big thing to do. Like obviously there's no anonymous, big word, you know what I mean, with with the other players. Trying to work out how to say that word. Animicity, that's the one. Hello, big word, scary. Dyslexic. Just why can't you say that word? Dyslexia.
Big words are scary.
Big word, scary. Just see a big word and just start just screaming into the void. Words are hard. Yes, I agree. What was my point again?
Words are scary.
So there was like there was no like bad vibes with the other players. It was all kind of part of the story, but it was definitely still a big thing for those characters who had been traveling together for a while outside of the one shot, to then just suddenly turn on them all. It's like a big thing to do. And that was definitely like another big, moment, but that was, really fun to do, like going evil, that's definitely, those are definitely my like two favorites for sure. So those are my two. Seth, did you have any questions you wanted to contribute about like first times with D&D?
I guess because again, I view yours as pretty new and you've been doing it a while. How was your first experience with combat? Like, how did you feel going into your first combat?
Ooh, as a player or DM?
Both? Either?
Both, yeah, I'd like to hear both.
DM, like I said, was a troll. I was over prepped. I was nervous the entire time because I was worried I was going to run it wrong. To the point of I actually had somebody else do a mock combat with me before I even ran the game because I was so nervous about running it that I was going to do it wrong. So just to make sure that I was getting everybody's ACs right and everything else, I did a mock combat beforehand with none of my players. It went fine. It was really fun. They did a good job. As a player, my first real combat was fighting that stupid Garistro cube that Kevin threw at us. It was stressful. I was worried I was going to mess something up. I don't think Feral wild shapes that entire time because I was worried about me doing it wrong. So it was really stressful. It was a lot of fun. It's definitely become a lot easier. But I was super stressed both times. Now I'm a lot more comfortable with it. Okay, cool, I can do Moonbeam, and then that's a concentration, and now I can do something else on top of that because it's concentration. As a DM, it's good. I still, like, layer actions trip me up a couple of times. Legendary actions can trip me up a little bit, but I've gotten better. I still get nervous depending on what the creature I'm running is. Like, I threw a Beholder at a party, and almost disintegrated somebody, which I would have felt really bad about, but I think that's just part of being a DM. So I still get nervous running certain creatures. But yeah, nerves. I got a lot better though. Most of the time.
I think for myself, both as a DM and a player, yeah, first time running a combat as a DM, I again over prepped to kind of knew exactly what was trying to, what I was trying to do with it. Where I thought it was gonna, well, I mean, I thought I was prepped, and the thing is, like, I'd been using like encounter like builders and was trying to make a relatively like easy like combat. But I feel like I made it a little too easy. Because I had, kind of like I was like, oh, so there's 4 enemies and there's 4 players, like that should be fine. And then Ivy's character immediately jumped in and was like, cool, this person has 3 health left. I was like, oh, this isn't gonna last very long, huh? Because I was more worried about downing the players quickly and doing a lot of damage to them quickly, rather than I was making, I was more concerned about that than really thinking about how much damage output some of our players had. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, cool. These guys are actually a lot stronger than I thought they were. Nice. So yeah, that was I learned from that.
That's something important that I think a lot of DMs learn is it's okay to fudge things one way or another. It's okay to knock a 0 off. It's okay to add a 0. It's okay to change things around. Whatever you need to do.
Yeah, 100%. And then combat as a player, I think I was over prepared in the fact that I'd like gone over my sheet. My first kind of character I played was I think they were a rogue actually. Or they were like a rogue fighter, I think, possibly multi-class, and I had like had my whole thing built around the because I was able to take a feat because we were playing. I think it was a one shot, so it was like level 5 or something. So I had a feat, and it was completely built around the crossbow expert feat. So I was like, oh yeah, like I know that like I can I don't have to worry about reloading because that's like free to do between turns. And like I can like hit, and then if I hit, I'm able to like do firing with a crossbow as like a bonus action, like completely like I knew what I was doing just because like I had like gone through it and worked with my DM trying to like work out what I could and couldn't do. So I felt very like over prepared for that. And at that point, it was just like, cool, I don't have any spells, just rinse and repeat. Hit the thing, shoot the thing. Easy. So yeah, I definitely felt a lot more prepared as a player than I did as a DM, for sure. But we learn and grow. We learn and grow.
I think that's in all things, D&D included. You just learn and get better. We are about the 1 hour mark. I was looking at 5:57, but we are about the 1 hour mark. So is there anything else you want to say or do before we end for the evening?
Do you have any closing questions, Seth? You got me? I'm trying to think. What would be a good question to end on?
I have a good one.
Oh.
What is your favorite NPC you built as the DM?
Oh, that's a really good one.
Okay, cool. We'll end on our favorite NPCs. Ben, go ahead. What's your favorite NPC that you've built?
My favorite NPC that I've built? Oh, there's so many to choose from. So many you haven't met yet. No, I think. I think probably my favorite NPC that you guys have run into so far that I've built. Actually, no, not even the one that you guys have run into. My very first one shot that I ever ran, I was building kind of the starting area that was like a tavern. and it was set in the far north of a region where it's all snowy and everything like that, and the whole area kind of like had this whole thing with death, and that's why the party had been sent there, was to kind of deal with this kind of sense of death that was like threatening the area, like people were disappearing and stuff like that. And I created a NPC that appeared as a young child, just mindlessly just drawing and just doing whatever, which is a little strange for a tavern by themselves, no parents, anything like that, and it's a little strange. And I was just like, you know what? I'll just put this person in there, and if players decide to interact with them for some reason, I'll just freak them the fuck out. So that they were actually drawing a if the players were able to roll kind of high enough on their history, they would be able to work out that what they were drawing was a very detailed beholder, which totally wasn't foreshadowing. What? No, never. But the fact that it came from this like small, very creepy child that just gave off very weird vibes, that the party actually got to find out a little later was actually a changeling, which was why they could appear like a little younger and smaller and stuff like that, was because they could just change who they were at will. And I think that was probably my favorite NPC, just because I got to just sit there and just say really just, kind of weird things, and then just straight up just say things to just freak them out. I think that was my favorite thing, for sure. Definitely, that was definitely my favorite NPC. But I've got some fun ones lined up that I'm excited for you guys to meet in your games. So,
I would
what about
say
you?
my favorite NPCs. I don't know if I have necessarily a favorite. There's some that haven't showed up in game yet. But one that I always enjoy, one of my absolute favorites, is my mouse folk. His name is Pippin. He's precious. He's sweet. He seems very great. He runs the Tiny Caravan, which is a touristy pirate shop where they sell like tricorner hats and everything else. And he has a book that he wrote. It's called 101 Knots, tying knots, because he lives on a dock. He's very cute, and he's like, I talk like this. Do you need anything? And he's just super cute. The joke is that he's actually an underground agent for a spy ring. So he's super cute and sweet, and will sign your book for you. And then also, if somebody in the organization comes in with a marking or a tattoo or something to identify that they're part of the same ring, he'll give them information, because he also works as a messenger.
He does all of that, and then just as a side job, he's just Nick Fury.
He's great. I love him. His name's Pippin. But cool. We are at the hour mark, so I will end our stream there. I'm Ivy. As always, you can see me on Beyond the Realms on Mondays, Lark Network on Wednesdays, and here every Friday. Ben?
Hi, I'm Ben. You can find me as Ben Does D&D on TikTok. I am on Mondays. I am also on Beyond the Realms with Ivy, where I play Tarek. On Wednesdays, on Wednesday actually, next week will be the last episode of Dungeons and Demigods, which is our Percy Jackson series. At least for now, there is talks of a season 3 coming up in the future. Whether I will be involved with that or not, I am unsure yet, but we shall see. So they got that on Wednesdays. And then every other Friday, I'm here for Sometimes Dungeons, Sometimes Dragons, where we bring on a lovely guest and we improvise.
Yeah, basically, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. We build NPCs, we chat for an hour, that kind of thing.
We world build. It just depends.
World build, yeah, it's good fun.
You can find Sarah on TikTok, where I put her lovely handle on stream.
They don't really post, they just kind of exist and look at memes.
Yeah,
you exist and look at memes, and every now and then make a video about your cat or your e-girl setup, or just, being beautiful.
Thank you, Sab, for being on with me and Ben today. Not that you really had a choice, because Ben is there.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I will take us out then. Thank you all for watching.
Bye, friends.